What about if abortion is necessary to save the life or health of the mother? You hear that one a lot. Usually people will scream it. So that's why you get it with an exclamation point and a question mark. But the reality is, and this is huge, abortion is never medically necessary to save the life of the mother. Never medically necessary. And this gives a lot of people pause, even on the pro-life side. They're like, wait a minute. I thought abortion was necessary to save the woman's life. I thought that was like a common thing that most people knew. No, not the case. But people will they'll bring up cancer, ovarian cancer, stuff like that. They'll bring up preeclampsia. They'll bring up chorioamnionitis, right? Which is like, it's the amniotic fluid getting an infection, right? It could be potentially deadly for baby and mom. Then you hear a lot of people talk about tubular or ectopic pregnancies, but there's a reality here. So let's go back to cancer. Ovarian cancer is talked about a lot. Killing the baby via abortion only delays mother's cancer treatment. Because if you go through the process of putting her through the surgery of killing her baby, you could have been giving her treatment for that cancer at that point. Because the reality is you can actually receive treatment with baby still in the womb. With what we're able to do now with, kind of pinpointing accuracy in terms of what we can do with cancer treatments. We've even seen, I talked about this before on the podcast over in the UK, they actually removed a womb from a woman's body during surgery so that they could, I think they were removing cancer from her abdomen area. They put the womb back, sewed her up, and the baby's alive today. We have the medical capabilities of pulling these things off. So you don't have to kill the baby to get rid of the cancer. And then when you talk about preeclampsia, preeclampsia, it happens usually after 20 weeks of gestation, right? That's when preeclampsia typically happens. So in those instances, you don't have to kill the baby to save mom. You just deliver baby. It's like, oh, I've got a 25-week-old fetus, but I have preeclampsia. Okay, let's kill the baby so that we can treat my preeclampsia. That makes no sense. You just deliver the baby, okay? Then you have chorioamnionitis, which I've described. Again, you don't have to kill the baby to save mom. You just deliver the baby to take care of the chorioamnionitis. But then the last one where a lot of people kind of get, pulled up on is tubular or ectopic pregnancies. So the reality about tubular or ectopic pregnancies, that's basically where the baby doesn't make it out of the fallopian tube. It gets stuck in the fallopian tube. This is very, very dangerous, okay? But in around 93% of ectopic pregnancies, there is not a fetus in the fallopian tube, okay? It's human parts that have kind of fallen apart. It's not an intact fetus. The fetus has already died by the time the ectopic pregnancy has been diagnosed, right? That's almost 100% of cases, okay? But for those where that doesn't happen that way, the reality is that the baby cannot survive without being moved from the fallopian tube to the uterus. The baby simply can't survive. It cannot grow in the fallopian tube. It needs to be implanted in the uterus, okay? But currently and unfortunately, there are no standard practices around this procedure, okay? It'd be great if we, took, the $500 million we give to Planned Parenthood every year and put it into this area. Like, hey, on an ectopic pregnancy, if we find it, how can we actually move the baby from the fallopian tube into the uterus? There have actually been doctors that have pulled that off before. They were able to flush the baby into the uterus. It's incredible. But again, there's no standards around that. But again, we have to go back to this. We have to go back when you're talking about all these different things, because how you deal with an ectopic pregnancy normally is you take the fallopian tube out, which kills the baby. But again, here's the argument. Part one, abortion intentionally and directly destroys innocent human life. Okay? And then part two was it's always wrong to intentionally and directly destroy innocent human life. But if you're doing surgery for an ectopic pregnancy, you are not intentionally and directly destroying innocent human life. That is a byproduct of what you're doing to save mom's life. Okay? The intent of surgical intervention or surgically intervening for an ectopic pregnancy is not to kill the baby. It is an unfortunate byproduct of trying to save mom. That's the reality. Okay? The doctor is trying to save 2 lives when they're treating a mother for any of those reasons that I talked about earlier, any of those ailments. They're trying to treat both people because both people want to survive, right? If given their options. And so that's what the doctor's there to do. So this is how I would respond to somebody that says it's medically necessary for some women to get an abortion. I would ask them this: are you aware that abortion is never medically necessary to save the life of the mother? Because you are going to get the craziest look, because they're going to be like, this dude is crazy. This dude is absolutely nuts. Because obviously it's a well-known fact that abortion is necessary in some cases. It's simply not. I would also ask them this: if the woman's life or health, I'm using air quotes, is at risk, air quotes again, after birth, can we murder the child then too? Because a lot of people talk about the health of the mother. They're not talking about her life. They're talking about the health of the mother, which doesn't just stay in the physical realm. They extend that to emotional health, financial health, relational health, right? So that's why I say they're at risk, right? But what about afterbirth? Can we murder the child then? You're throwing this back in their face, right? Because they'll say things like, you only care about the life and health of the mother while she's pregnant. You don't give a crap after. Well, let's talk about after. The kid's 2 years old, and that kid staying alive is going to affect this woman's health because she just wants to kill this little thing, right? It won't shut up. It won't do what she says. It keeps crapping itself. Why can't we kill it then? Because you're saying this is necessary to protect the health of the mother. Her mental health is important. Can we kill her 2-year-old? Throw it back in their face. And then I'll go ahead and throw this in at the end here. Another question you could ask them is, since concern for the mother's health only accounts for around 4% of all abortions, are the other roughly 96% of abortions morally wrong? Again, they'll be shocked to realize that around 4% of abortions are potentially because the mother's health is at risk. They probably think it's way higher than that, probably 10 times higher or more. But then you have to ask them, okay, look, we can talk about those 4%. We'll put those over here. What about the 96% of all the other abortions? Are those morally wrong? Got to get an answer to that.